1, 2, 3. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of True Crime and Cocktails. We're so glad that you're here. As always, I am your host, Lauren Ash, and as always, I'm joined by my co-hostess with the most S, Christy Oxborrow. How you feeling?
I'm doing great.
That's great, because I'm pissed off as hell.
Oh, coming in hot.
Coming in hot because something just happened and I'm PO'd, okay?
Oh, okay.
I'm rootin', tootin', fruitin', zoot bootin'. So, look. Couple of things. No, where do I start? Am I gonna call out the business by name? I guess I will.
Okay.
There's a company called Dolls Kill, okay? They do, punk rock, clothing. I've gotten stuff from there many times for years and years and years. They do have a physical location in LA. So, in prior orders, if I do an online order, because the store is a little bit of a distance from me, and I'm going to be honest, I don't ever want to go shopping in a store. I don't like it. I get anxious. I don't want to try things on there.
Oh,
I haven't
trying
been
on
shopping
at
in
a
a
store?
store. No, I haven't done that in years. So anyway, as a lot of people do, typically I would order to the house, and if I had to make a return, I would physically take it to the store. It's a bit of a distance, but again, it's like, it's you plan for it, right?
Sure.
So they have these combat boots, and I've been looking for a very specific kind of combat boots. You'll love this. Not for my tour that's in October, but for my tour for an album that hasn't even come out yet. I've got a whole new aesthetic I want to do. And so I'm trying early to order pieces to put together my looks for a tour that the album hasn't even come out.
You're building a vibe.
Lauren.
You're building a vibe.
I'm building a vibe. Exactly. I'm building a vibe. If you would like to see my mood board, I'd be happy to send it to you. And by you, I just mean Christy. I don't want to share it with the public, but the point is, so anyway, I've been looking for a very specific kind of combat boot because I want it to be I don't want there to be a huge platform. I don't want there to be a huge heel because I don't want to break my ankle on stage. I want it to be lightweight. There's a bunch of different things. I also have a certain aesthetic I want it to look like. So I found these ones on the site and they had two different colors. So what do? What a lot of self-respecting people do.
One of each color.
Thank you very much. I didn't know if I'd keep them both, but I was like, I need to see them in person to see. And listen, the storefront doesn't have all of the stuff available. So even if I went down there to look, there's a very large possibility they wouldn't have those shoes on the floor. So
sure.
I go. Now, what I'm about to say is going to be very gender normative, and I apologize. It's not my choice. It's the way that, these things unfortunately work. This store is, I would say, kind of directed towards female presenting people. Now, is there stuff that, but I also believe clothes are clothes and that they shouldn't be gendered. I think anybody should wear anything they want, truly. Sure. But for the purposes of the way we shop, there are sizing things, right?
Sure.
So this site that caters to what we, on the binary in this world that we're in, which again, I'm not saying is ideal, caters to female sizing,
sure,
or what we know as women's sizing, quote unquote. Again, that's a construct, but you know what I'm saying. I go to order the boots, and I go to a women's size 10, or I go to a size 10. Great. Well, they arrived today, and they're a men's size 10. Explain it to me. How on earth? Why wouldn't it say? If they're a unisex boot, which they absolutely are, I think all clothes are unisex, but that's a whole other conversation. But sure, you have to put a W or an M.
Yeah.
So that we know what we're ordering, right? And if we want to come up with a better system that is not gender normative, I'm all for that too. But I'm saying that in the world we currently live in today, this is what we're dealing with. And I ordered what I thought on a site that primarily caters to female presenting people. I assumed it was in female sizing because everything else is.
That makes sense.
So that's annoying, but that's not what's gotten me peeved.
Oh boy. Okay.
Go onto the website and I'm like, all right, I'll try and make an exchange. They're not doing that. Okay. I'll make a return and then I'll rebuy them. That's fine. And what was great is I could see them in person and see the coloring and the style and whatever. So, it served a purpose, whatever. Here's where it falls apart. One, I can't take them into the store to return them. I have to send them, either you can package it and send it through, I don't know which one it is, UPS, FedEx, USPS, one of the three, right? Or there's a thing called Happy Returns where you literally just come with the item. You don't have to package it up. They scan a barcode. They take the item. Great. You have to pay for it now. So now, they, in my opinion, messed up by not delineating clearly what the sizes were.
Correct.
And now I have to pay money to return the items.
That's insane.
They're only offering store credit, which I also think is bullshit because I'm trying to return it. I filed the return within 5 minutes of the item arriving at my home. It's not like we're 30 days out here.
Right.
So, again, fine, I can deal with the store credit because I'm going to buy a replacement anyway. But it's the ethics of it. And yes, I understand. It's like it's only $5, and I get that that's not a lot of money, but it's the ethics of it. I shouldn't have to pay because you messed up. And I know what you're thinking. Get onto customer support, get someone on the phone, or do the online chat. I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to.
No.
I shouldn't have to. And here's the thing that also I don't understand. If I want to take it in person to Happy Returns and I don't have to box it up so it's easier for me,
Yeah.
5 bones. If I want to print a shipping label and print and source my own shipping container, which again, these are 2 men's size 10 boots, like they're big boxes, heavy boxes.
Right.
So I don't know what I'm gonna have to find a box or whatever. $8. Explain that to me.
That's insane.
Then I got an order from another store and tried on, ironically, everything I bought in the same size. One of them way too big, one of them way too small. That's the joy of this world of clothing, which is a great reminder too that sizes mean nothing. We all need to remember this. So then I'm like, I want to make an exchange. I like these items. They're just in the wrong size.
Yeah.
You want to make an exchange?
Oh, no.
It'll cost you.
What?
So now it's going to cost me $8 an item to get the size that I need.
That's insane.
I think this is absolute bullshit.
What's happened?
When did this become a thing? I understand I went through a period of time where I wasn't ordering a lot of like the only things I was ordering online were like novelty clothing. Because let's be honest, folks, I live in sweatpants 99% of the time. That's not an exaggeration. I haven't been doing a lot of events lately, so I haven't been necessarily buying event clothes. But even then, I would typically perhaps like go to a stylist and borrow clothes. So like, I don't know what it is. I'm like, have I just not been ordering clothes lately? I don't know.
Are they doing less business in the brick and mortar so they have to up the amounts they get from the online stuff?
Great question. I don't know. It's a good question. I will also shout out Revolve, which is the one website that isn't doing this to me. And I swear to God, if they turn on me, I don't know. I don't even know. You're going to find me at the other end of a bottle of something. That's what I'm going to tell you right now. I feel like I'm being pushed. I'm being pushed.
You're being pushed.
I think it's absurd that we would have to ever pay for a return. Period. Certainly, if it's within a certain period of... it should be one of those... If they want to start charging for it, fine. But make it that it's like, if you return it in the first 72 hours, you don't have to pay. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, this is crazy.
Oh, 100%. I don't get it. The problem I have is if I order stuff and then it's like, oh, it doesn't fit or it doesn't whatever, I end up waiting so long to return it that it's just, they're like, we can't accept it. And that I get, that's on me. But right now, I'm having issues with an eBay seller.
Oh, for God's sake.
Because they sent me the wrong item. But I didn't know it was going to be wrong until I got a message from them and they were like, hey, heads up. I just found out your item got sent to somebody else. So you've got the wrong item. I apologize. Don't worry. When it comes, just open up a return thing. on eBay. And I was like, okay, cool. I understand. Mistakes get made. It's fine. It shows up. I take eBay wants you to take pictures to prove what you get. So I showed them and I was like, this is absolutely not what I ordered. And then they were like, okay, cool. And then it was like, your return is accepted by the seller. I'm like, great. And then eBay sends me a message and they're like, so the sellers informed us that they gave you a shipping label. So if you could just, or return label or whatever, so if you could just return it. Like, and so then I'm like, okay. So I contact the seller and I'm like, I don't have a return label. And they're like, oh yeah, I don't do that. You're going to have to talk to eBay about it. So now I'm trying to get eBay
No.
to contact me to be able to do this because I have to return it in the next week. And I'm like, I'm absolutely not paying to return this.
No.
So I'm like, I really would like you to just return this. Like,
Well, I pray that they haven't started something like this bullshit where they are going to tell you to pay for some amount of it. That's crap.
if I have to pay for this, I'll lose it. Because I've already said, he's like, well, what do you want me to do? The other person who got yours, they've sent it back to me. What do you want to do with it? And I'm like, well, I still want it. But I'm not going to also pay shipping on this as well as then turn around and pay for that again.
No.
So it's like, just like, I don't want to have to pay. No, I understand errors happen, but I don't want to pay for your error. I
You
don't.
shouldn't have to.
So I'm like, I just,
Also, how many orders is this person getting? Because not to brag, but I did personally box up 69 orders for my Whatnot auction. And I triple checked everything. So,
oh, yeah.
I mean,
Here's the thing. I've ordered so many things lately, like eBay, Etsy, Bricklink, which is a favorite of mine for specifically like Lego parts. And for the most part, things go great.
yeah.
You get what you ordered, everything shows up beautifully, perfect. But some of the things sometimes it's like, oh, this is a lot dirtier than it looked in the photos. I ordered a Lego minifigure. He showed up missing a hand.
That's bullshit.
I'm like, I don't even understand. And he was in like a sealed bag. So I'm like, how does this even, I don't even know how you get it in this sort of bag. But like, how is this even possible? And now it's like keeping me up at night. I mean, other things are keeping me up at night, but I'm convinced this is part of it. I have to give a review. I mean, I don't have to, but they're like, give a review. So I have to give a review of this person. And I'm like, everything else was fine, but I'm like, I want to be like positive, but the minifigure was missing a hand.
Look, I dealt with this the other day. There was something that I ordered from Mercari, which is like a eBay type thing in the States. And it was taking a long time to reach me. And it's one of my fucking plush pendant things. Don't worry about it. It's a Pucky collection. Doesn't matter. I want the whole collection. It's not important. What's important is I noted that it was taking a long time, but I kept checking and it kept saying like, estimated delivery, whatever. I get a package at my door. There's a printed out on 8.5 by 11 a couple of pages that have been like taped to the box from UPS. And then when I look, there's no shipping label on the box. There's remnants of 4 or 5 other shipping labels on the box. Old ones. Not mine. So I guess they somehow managed to figure out what this box was and where it was supposed to go. I guess, I don't know how. I don't, maybe they opened it. I don't know. But I open it and the person has just chucked this thing in there. And typically people in the community treat each of the collectibles with a certain level of dignity and respect, and they package them, these are collectibles. That's part of the whole thing.
Sure.
And you know what? I guess this is what happens. I guess you do become a Karen when 40 rolls over on the fucking odometer. Because guess what? I left a negative. I gave her 3 stars. 3. I left the negative review. I still couldn't help myself. I said something nice in the end, but I stated the facts. Arrived with no shipping label. Letter was attached from UPS. They had to, figure this situation out. Item was not properly wrapped and not carefully wrapped inside the box. However, it was in great condition. And I think that's fair.
Yes. So just so I'm clear, 3 stars is a bad review? How many stars are Like, is this out of 5?
Out of 5, yeah.
And 3 is bad.
I guess maybe you just said you didn't know how you were going to leave a negative review. Look, we're
Judging. I was just clarifying because I get it. My options for this review are you click positive, neutral, or negative, and then you can write a very tiny amount. And the thing is, I've almost always, I think I've always put positive, because I always look on the bright side. It's just it kills me to leave a negative review, but I'm like, I don't know. I just feel awful about it.
I mean, I have thought to myself, these people have my address. I shouldn't say anything negative. And then it's like, is this woman who lives in South Dakota gonna purchase a flight, fly to another state, like find me, come to my home and like shake me down, or like, you know,
Here's your shipping label.
Yeah, exactly. And then just like attaches it to my forehead and leaves. Harumph.
That's not worth a flight.
Look, and I guess what I'd also have to say is like, you know, if they're gonna go to that trouble, like,
see the Hollywood sign before you go.
Look, but here's the thing. As we tend to do on this show, where there's darkness, there's light.
Okay.
And I have to bring up one other thing before we get into the case, which is a little so-and-so that's taken the internet by storm. And that little so-and-so is Jimothy.
Yeah.
Now, if you're not familiar with who Jimothy is, folks, pull out your device, go to another one, Google it, it'll come up. Jimothy is a short-spined raccoon, which means some have compared him to a cryptid. He moves in a very unique way.
Yeah.
He's adorable. I'm in love with him, as a lot of people are. And I have a theory, which no one asked for and isn't necessary, but unfortunately I'm holding you all hostage. Not really, you can always fast forward, but short spine syndrome in dogs, I have read, can happen when somebody tries to mate a really big dog with a really small dog. Like, we shouldn't be mating a big Rottweiler with a Chihuahua. They're not gonna jive, right?
Sure.
So
Just
sometimes
jizz.
when that happens, what did you say?
I don't want to say it again.
Did you say jizz?
You said they're not going to jive, and I said they're just going to jizz. I'm so sorry. It's even worse the second time. I'm a grown woman.
It was also that you said it in a low enough voice that I couldn't fully hear you.
Oh, God, I'm so sorry. Okay, continue.
They're not gonna jive. They're just gonna jizz. You monkey. I love it. So yeah. So that can I've read that can happen, and you'll see these short-spined dogs, and it's similar. You know, the body just looks a little crunched. Like, you know, the neck is kind of where the chest should be, type thing. There isn't much of a neck quite often. And when I look at Jimothy, he's got very long legs, longer than a typical raccoon. To that I say, is he half cat? Did a cat and a raccoon have sex? Doesn't feel impossible. They're similar sizes. I feel like there's some relation down the road.
Sure.
And did that cause the genetic? You know what I mean?
Interesting. I think it's possible.
And is that why he got the short spine and he got the long, slender legs?
I mean, I think it's a great theory. I think we're talking 45% raccoon, 45% cat, 10% angel.
100%. Listen, it doesn't matter what Jimothy's parents, who they are. It doesn't matter. But I guess for me, it's the wanting to solve the mystery. That's the reason we have this podcast. You know, it's like, I'm just like, but how is he like that? I mean, it doesn't matter. He's wonderful, and I'll celebrate him till the day I die either way. Yeah. Someone protect him too, because the internet's making him a star. And I swear to God, if someone tries to trap him, or tries to take him on the road, like some sort of freak show event in a cage, well, then I'm going to be the one who's getting on a plane from South Dakota and showing up at someone's home. You know what I mean? I'll fly to South Dakota first. That throws them off my scent.
The absolute upset if someone tries to ruin this for the rest of us. Let us enjoy him from afar. He's meant to be enjoyed from afar.
Yes.
Let him live freely. Just let
him live. And I just worry because humans are awful.
Yeah.
We ruin things.
Yeah.
Not all of us, but there's a contingent of us. The people who want to watch the world burn, you know.
Well, they charge for returns now, so
this is my falling down. This is my Michael Douglas falling down.
Something happening to Jimothy, and then that's it.
Oh my God. If something happened, no. Here's the deal. I feel in general like I'm only ever one situation away from an absolute fucking mental breakdown. Like I just think that's where I'm going to be maybe until retirement. I don't know. Oh, maybe forever. Yeah. I don't know. But it's like I'm always like there's just one step away from me screaming at the sky. I think if something happened to Jimothy, other than natural causes, you know what I mean? If something happened to Jimothy, I could see that being the break. I could see that being the straw that boop. And that's what sends action to madness. You know what I mean?
I get that.
There's so much injustice. It's so heavy.
Yeah.
I love that I'm saying this with a neon orange squishy toy in my hand. But you know why? I need these now. That's a stress relief.
Neato.
Thank you. I will also say I squished this so much with one of my hands that I like pulled something. Like there's a pain in a tendon now. Wasn't there before? Yep. I've done something.
I think you're going through it.
I know I am.
Yeah.
I know I am. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's lots of factors. We don't have to get into them, but like I think I am. I think I'm delicate in general, and I think the weight of the world sometimes, I think it erodes. It takes a toll.
Sure.
On the most sensitive, on everybody, but there's some of us that are, you know, 20% angel. I'm kidding.
I'm sure it really helps your mental health when you have I don't know, just like an unnamed podcast co-host who voice notes you things like "Christ on a cracker" when she's driving somewhere and somebody makes her mad and she just starts screaming. That's the kind of content she gets from me.
First of all, that's what keeps me tethered to the earth because it's a joy. It's fun. It's my own personal podcast. That's a joy. That's a delight. That's a delight. And I don't think we use Christ on I said this to you that day. I don't think we use Christ on a cracker as much, like in general.
No, I don't.
And why is it Christ on a cracker?
I have no idea.
Because in communion, Christ is the cracker. So what the hell is this?
I have no idea.
Let me do one. What is the origin of the expression Christ on a cracker? I pray it's not communion because I think that's not accurate. A slightly irreverent variation of older oaths like Jesus Christ. It's an absurd euphemistic spin on Christ on the cross. Or older established slang like crap on a cracker. What the hell is that?
I've never heard crap on a cracker before. I don't even honestly know why it came out. It has rarely ever left my mouth. It's just the problem with the voice notes is I want to be hands-free. Yeah. Obviously, safe. So before I get moving, I set it up, I hit record, and then while I'm driving, you get what I want to tell you combined with everything I see as I go and people and their driving infractions. And it's just like, heaven forbid somebody does a U-turn and I'm recording.
I was gonna say, Christy really despises people doing U-turns. It's very specific and it's consistent.
I don't know what it is. I don't know. I never cared before. And then we got a specific spot. They put up a sign where it's like U-turns are permitted. And my brain went, that's the only place. And now people are doing them everywhere and like in the middle of an intersection. And it's just something about it.
It
I'd
doesn't.
be a
It doesn't.
terrible, terrible traffic cop because that's all I'd look for. And I'd make sure to have a little pin that had like a U-turn sign and there would be a big no through it.
Yeah. I like that you'd be making up your own rules of the road. I think that's creative.
I mean, it
I
does sound like me. I just don't know
go.
what it is about it that drives me so crazy.
I
But
don't
like
either. I
this
mean,
is my old lady. This is where I'm at.
as far as I know, as long as there isn't a sign saying no U-turns, I think it's legal in general.
That seems right. And
Yeah,
yet for me, this is my old man get off my lawn. You
of
know what I mean?
course.
Like this, and I don't know why it bugs me, but it's in my soul. In
Well,
my soul.
going back to Christ on a Cracker for 2 seconds, because this does connect.
Hey,
Um, this is the final thing I want to offer to you. It belongs to a broader tradition of whimsical, expletive-driven pairings in American slang, sharing linguistic roots with similar minced oaths, like Jesus Christ on a pogo stick.
no one has said that in the history of time until now.
Well, and I hope you, the next time you see a U-turn and you're voice noting me. Jesus Christ on a pogo stick?
That's amazing.
Is that supposed to be making fun of him on the cross? Because, listen, I'm no Catholic, but I'm pearl clutching. That feels irresponsible. Like, we don't know what the end game is. Who knows what happens after we die? None of us know. I don't want to be disrespecting him like that.
I get it. I mean, again, I don't even know. I've never heard that one before. I don't even know where I heard Christ on a Cracker, but I was shocked that I used it.
Yeah.
It was just a genuine thing that came out, and I don't know. I think I'm learning. I gotta stop voice noting in the car. Because again, like I can't to get from A to B, it's like I have this specific thing to tell her. It's gonna take me from A to B. And while I'm saying it, uh-oh, there's a random bird. Oh, there's somebody doing something on the street. Oh, traffic infractions, like just the amount of shit that happens that I have to tell you about on the way to B.
What? Have I ever complained? Like, I only
That's
ever give
not.
positive feedback. You know what I mean?
I get more than 3 stars every time for sure.
Oh my God, you could never go below 5. I still
Oh,
feel a little
bless.
sick about that review. I feel a little sick about it. I really pushed myself, but you know.
But good for you for doing it. People need to know. Again, this is it's I feel someone could like I could order something, they could bring it to my house themselves, and when I open the door, slap me in the face, and I would still be sick about the idea of leaving them a negative review.
I get
Like
that.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just hardcore women of our age group were like raised with the whole like always be nice kind of like thing shoved at us. I don't know what it is, but I'm sick about it. And I'm like, I try to think of it as it's not negative. I'm just being truthful.
Yeah.
But every time I'm like, I don't want to hurt their feelings. A stranger who did something negative to you?
Yeah. Who made your life harder? Come on.
Right? Why am I not yelling Christ on a cracker at them?
Well,
That's my review.
I was just going to say,
Christ
I'd like
on-
to see you put that in the review. Christ on a cracker, this was frustrating.
Oh, yeah. The current eBay situation I'm in, I don't know how I'm going to even make that a neutral thing. It's added so much stress and annoyance to my life.
Well, listen, as somebody who's a new online auctioneer on
Yeah.
Whatnot, dstash with Ash is my handle. I hope I don't get any negative reviews because I don't need to tell you, I would not survive them. You know, it's not good for my delicate demeanor, you know?
Oh, I could rattle off a couple negative reviews I've heard about me 5 years ago that I still can't let go. So that keep me up at night, and I think about them a lot. So I get that. And look, if I'm not for you, that's okay. You can just quietly find someone who is.
Yeah.
You don't have to be like, God, I hate her.
No.
That's unnecessary.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's ever said they hate. I'm sure they do, but somebody somewhere. But they've never said that, but they've said I've seen things that I'm like, nah, I'm good.
Oh yeah, I see things every day.
Back.
You just try to keep calm and carry on, I guess. I'm getting real good at the block button too. I'm really loving. I'm doling out the
in your
blocks.
hand.
What's that?
That's how you pull a tendon in your Nido hand.
Yeah. The joke's on you, baby, because both hands are Nido hands.
I should have known. I should have known.
Yeah. What you drinking over there?
I have the ends of a Pepsi Slurpee. Yeah,
that's nice. I have the dregs of my third Diet Coke of the day. I try to limit it too, but lately I've been having a third in the evenings. What are you doing? Sorry, that. Beans. I've got both animals on the chair with me, and it's just there's not a lot of real estate. And anyway, I'm a single mom who works too hard, who loves her kids and never stops.
Yeah, I get that. Do you know, I keep meaning to tell you this in like a voice note or just in a random text without getting distracted. But the other day I was thinking about a time when I was at your place in LA and I had a Diet Dr. Pepper. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I remember enjoying it in the moment. And then I thought to myself, okay, I'll get a Diet Dr. Pepper the next time I go to a store just to see if I do like it. And if I do, maybe I'll get like a case of them. We do not sell that here.
What?
We got Dr. Pepper. We got Dr. Pepper, no sugar. That's it. There's no diet. So I'm like, is that different? I can't tell. I assume. We also now get Dr. Pepper Blackberry, no sugar. And I'm just like, would I like that? I want to try it, but I don't want to buy a 12-pack of them just to try one.
No, I was shocked. That's a one can situation.
Yes, because I'm probably not going to want them. But I'm just like, I mean, maybe I'll try a no sugar, but I'm just like, I was just shocked we didn't have the diet up here.
This is this new thing that's happening where some companies are like, oh, people just want. It's like what I experienced at the Sky Dome this year, where it was so hard to find a Diet Coke because they were giving Coke and Coke Zero, and I don't want that swill. It's not for me. I don't like it.
I get that.
And a lot of Diet Coke, drinkers are as passionate as I think Diet Coke drinkers are a special breed. Like, we are very, very specific.
Yeah.
Passionate, all of the above. But it's the same concept where it's like, don't choose for me. See, I don't like that. You know what? Big soda, don't you choose for me and assume I want my Coke to taste like regular Coke. I'd rather die, frankly.
It's that I've never heard anybody refer to big soda. But that does sound like the name of like a southern pop. You know what I mean? Come on, we got to go over to Big Soda's house. Like,
oh yeah.
That feels right to me.
100%. Sarsaparillas. Come on.
I don't even know what that is, but if Big Soda's dishing it out, I'll take it. I don't even know what that means.
No jive, just jizz. On that note,
we are not making shirts that say that.
Don't ask for them, folks. To be honest with you, the supplier won't let me. There's certain things I've tried to put on shirts and it won't let me. I guarantee it won't let me put jizz on anything. And that makes it sound like I'm talking about something else.
That's a whole other whatnot auction.
Yeah, well, listen, again, no thanks. We're talking about Leopold and Loeb on this episode of the show. Over on patreon.com/True Crime and Cocktails, our patrons can vote for one of the episodes we cover here on the main feed. And this was June's patrons poll pick, which was a case that inspired a movie. So I don't know anything about this. So let's get into a little backstory right now. In the spring of 1924, 14-year-old Bobby Franks was abducted near his Chicago home. A ransom note was sent to his wealthy parents, but before they could respond to the demands, Bobby's body was discovered in a drainage culvert 14 miles away. At the scene, police discovered evidence that quickly led them to not one, but two killers, both of whom were affluent young men. The crime made headlines across the country and led to what was described as the trial of the century. So what happened to Bobby Franks? Who were the killers? And what pathetic excuse do they give for ending a young life? Christy Oxborrow investigates.
I need to give a caveat at the beginning of this. I worked on this particularly late at night.
Okay.
Because I've been trying to prepare my home for a birthday party sleepover for a child. And
sure,
it's like, we're talking furniture's been thrown out in the backyard. I have just a trail of furniture in my backyard that needs to be thrown out that I just never got around to. I'm shampooing carpets, all of the above, really trying to go above and beyond. So the only time I've had to do this is like roughly 3 a.m. So this might get kooky and a little extra sassy.
Fantastic.
So just so we're aware. I also didn't read this over, so best of luck to all of us. Okay, so today's episode takes place in Illinois, which is located in the Midwest portion of the United States. Its nickname is the Prairie State. The state bird is the northern cardinal, and just like our last episode about Michigan, the state reptile is the painted turtle. What are the odds? I don't know. Relevant to Lauren's interests, Illinois' official state snack food is popcorn.
Yeah.
They, of course, have their own flavor, Chicago style, which is a combination of cheese and caramel. Illinois was the first U.S. state to ratify the 13th Amendment, which was to formally abolish slavery. Illinois is home to more nuclear power plants than any other state in the country. And twice a year, Chicago is a stopover for migrating birds. The migratory route is called the Mississippi Flyway and is used by millions of birds, including roughly 40% of all North American waterfowl and shorebirds. Robert Wadlow, who was born in 1918 in Alton, Illinois, was the tallest man in recorded history, measuring over 8 feet tall. He was an average-sized baby, measuring roughly 19 inches long and weighing 8 pounds 5 ounces at birth. By the age of 5, he'd grown to 5'6", and at the age of 8, Robert measured 6 feet tall, making him taller than his own father. By 13, Robert had grown to over 7 feet. It was determined he had an enlarged pituitary gland, which caused abnormally high level of growth hormones. Doctors offered to do corrective surgery when Robert was 12, but because it was dangerous and they didn't know if it would actually work, his parents decided against it. Sadly, Robert passed away from an infection caused by his leg braces. He was just 22.
Oh, God.
Yeah. In 1955, Robert was posthumously given the Guinness World Record for the tallest man ever, thanks to official records which showed that just 1 month before his death, Robert measured in at 8 feet 11.1 inches.
Jesus.
His record appeared in the first ever edition of the Guinness World Record book. In 1986, a life-size statue of Robert was placed near the Alton Museum of History and Art in Alton, Illinois. And speaking of world records, the Nabisco factory in Illinois is the Guinness World Record holder for the largest bakery in the world. The building is 1.8 million square feet in size, and has more than a dozen ovens, each of which are the length of a U.S. football field.
What?
The factory makes billions of cookies or biscuits every year.
Biscuit.
Yeah, I had.
Don't need to. Don't need to do that.
I could not be happier. I already said jizz, so anything you say after that, we're golden. I just didn't realize when I first read it, it's like they have more than a dozen ovens. I'm like, obviously. And then it's like the ovens are like massive. I had no idea.
That's crazy.
So they must like wheel all those little like carts in or however they do for the things. And then then you'd have to wait a chunk of time while it's cooling down to be able to go in there. Or are they going in like the full on like radiation type suits to get shit out of the oven?
Wait, people are do you know for a fact people walk into the ovens?
No! This is how I've been mentioning it. Now that you've said it, it's probably on a fucking conveyor belt, you dumbass. Jesus.
Hazmat suit.
Please, someone at Nabisco tell me there are hazmat suits.
Oh God. It's so pure. It's so pure.
Again, I just want to say, I gave a caveat. I am underslept and on a bit of Robies. So,
oh, listen, I can't wait to take my Robies tonight. I've been having a lot of neck pain, so guess what?
I get that.
I'll be sleeping with Dr. Robexa set tonight.
I took a risk in taking it before. I should have waited till after, but I went for it. Now I'm like, I've said jizz now at least 5 times.
Yep.
Openly, like an idiot, said that they walk into an oven.
I just never heard of a walk-in oven. Like I in general,
I guess I'm just thinking of the ovens. When I used to work at Safeway, they had like huge ovens where you had to like wheel the full cart in and a human could like walk into it. It was that big. But you just wheeled the cart in and then you closed the door. And I guess when I saw, oh, it's the size of a football field, I just envisioned this massive space. Christy Lynn, how embarrassing.
It's not embarrassing. I didn't even know that they had ovens as big as you're saying. I feel like it's a real hazard to have an oven you can walk into. That feels not great.
There has to be a way that they don't actually physically walk in. It's the fact that I never even thought of that it would possibly just be like a conveyor belt going through the oven. Yeah, that makes more sense. Jesus. Anyway, she's doing great.
She's doing great. Nabisco.
Thank you very much. 40% of the pumpkins grown in the United States come from Illinois.
No shit.
But specifically, Morton, Illinois, is known as the pumpkin capital of the world because they produce 85% of the canned or packaged pumpkins sold worldwide.
Wow.
Yeah. The Griffin Museum of Science and Industry is the largest science center in the Western Hemisphere. Established in 1933, the museum features over 400,000 square feet of exhibits, including a 252-foot-long German U-boat from World War II, a 197-foot-long Pioneer Zephyr passenger train, a full-size half-acre replica of a coal mine, and a science exhibit which features a 40-foot-tall indoor tornado. I don't know why companies aren't paying me to like try and hype up their businesses.
In their defense, I don't know that they know you're doing this.
Yeah, of course they do. If I start tagging them and spreading the word.
Yeah.
Oh, then watch my resume pop.
Oh, this is great. I'll say it. Grand. It's grand what's happening. Oh, you're getting hot. Oh, this is a joy. It's always fun for me when I'm less under the influence than Christy. This is a joy.
I'm just like, I think it's a combination of so many things going on, and maybe in a few days I'll be fine.
Oh, I know you will. You always are.
Oh, what a full-on kook. Oh, and I can't believe this is the next thing I have to say. I'm not going to get through it. Oh, Illinois is home to the Wienermobile, the much beloved hot dog shaped vehicle owned by the Oscar Mayer Company. When it was first created in 1936, the vehicle was roughly 13 feet long, but in 1995, it got a massive upgrade, measuring in at 27 feet. As of this record, Oscar Mayer has 6 full-size Wienermobiles that drive across the country promoting their products. Again, I need to start using some of these where I'm promoting a thing as a promo. And be like, if you like this, no.
I guess my question is, are you promoting it or are you just letting us know it exists? You know what I mean? Like, if
I'm just letting you know it exists, but you can't tell me someone's not going to hear that just salacious bit about the Griffin Museum and be like, I want to see a tornado. And you're welcome, Griffin Museum. I've given you a ticket. I've sold one more ticket for you. They're not going to go alone. It's going to be multiple tickets. I'm fine.
I guess what I'm hearing is also, if they were to offer you some cash, maybe it would grease the wheel for you to speak about it in a more, positive light,
Well, and here's the thing. I'm not even looking for their money.
Don't tell me you're back on wanting hats.
No, I think at this point, I would just be like, yeah, you'll love this. I don't know what I want. No,
well,
what I want is, well, it depends. If Oscar Mayer can make it happen, if Oscar Mayer can somehow make that adorable 6 foot plus Viking, Erling Holland, acknowledge that I exist.
There's a lot of...
my heart is still in the World Cup.
Okay, but does he have a connection to the Wienermobile?
He doesn't. No.
Okay, so you're taking a lot of leaps. That it's like, if Oscar Mayer reaches out, then surely that top-notch athlete follows the Oscar Mayer accounts, and then he's going to see me, and then he's going to find my podcast, and then he'll listen, and then he'll know.
I feel like he's kooky enough. He'd follow the Wienermobile.
Okay.
I have nothing to base that on.
I also just want to remind you,
the only thing I could think of.
The victim in this case, his last name is Franks, and we're talking a lot about hot dogs.
That is a thing as well. Yeah. Yeah, look, I was immediately like, what do I want? And I couldn't think of anything, and all I can think of is, because I'm still Team Norway in my soul, and I can't let it go.
Of course. Did you take one Roby or two?
Just the one.
Okay. I just wanted to know what I'm in store for.
I mean, if nothing else, I don't think we'll know, but I have to let my husband know when I take more than one.
Yeah.
Because last time it was, I got so paranoid I was going to die in my sleep that he got up and checked on me throughout the night. Bless him. And so when I go to take one, he's like, how many have you taken? So that he knows. Just the one for tonight. Jesus. This is... I should just skip to the case, but we're getting there. We're almost there. Oh, boy. You're going to love this. Just seamless segue.
Yeah.
Speaking of hot dogs.
Oh, my gosh.
If I had just continued on with the Wienermobile and let it go, that would have been more seamless than it seemed. The most popular condiment to put on a hot dog is mustard, and I'm going to get flack for this, but I also put ketchup on it. I know, I'm a heathen, but I'm putting myself up for ridicule because I'm just beautifully trying to segue from hot dogs to ketchup, because Collinsville, Illinois is home to the world's largest ketchup bottle. It's actually a water tower in the shape of a bottle, but it's 70 feet tall. That sounds fun. Things invented in Illinois include spray paint, sleeping cars on trains, the car radio, vacuum cleaners, farm silos, the mobile phone, roller derby, automatic dishwashers, blood banks, soap operas, Twinkies, zippers, barbed wire, red Solo cups, brownies, and the Ferris wheel.
Huh.
Movies filmed in Illinois include The Dark Knight, Sleepless in Seattle, Wayne's World, A League of Their Own, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Groundhog Day, Backdraft, and The Weatherman, which stars Nicolas Cage.
There it is.
Famous people born in Illinois include Walt Disney, John Malkovich, Harrison Ford, Melissa McCarthy, Bill Murray, Dick Van Dyke, Robin Williams, Mandy Patinkin, Gillian Anderson, Keke Palmer, Mr. T, Bob Newhart, and the one, the only, Miss Betty White. I could also point out that Patricia Arquette, actress and former wife of Nicolas Cage, was also born in Illinois, but I've already used Patricia to link Cage to an episode back in November 2025, and that would go against the spirit of the game to use the same reference twice, and I'm better than that.
God bless you.
For those keeping track at home, our Cage connection has now officially reached 48 episodes.
Amazing.
Yeah. What a just full kook of a woman, and great news, just in time for my kook to really come out. We've gotten to the episode.
Wonderful.
As part of my research for this episode, I watched the American Experience documentary, The Perfect Crime. If you're interested, it can be found on the PBS YouTube channel.
Ah.
Yeah. Free, no commercials. There you go. And then a disclaimer. This episode will contain mentions of child sexual abuse and graphic descriptions of violence, so trigger warning for those who need it. Robert Emanuel Franks, known as Bobby, was born September 19th, 1909 in Chicago, Illinois. His parents, Jacob and Flora, had two other children, including Josephine in 1906 and Jack in 1908. In 1924, Bobby was in his freshman year of high school at the Harvard School for Boys, a prestigious private school on the south side of Chicago in Kenwood. Bobby had an interest in golf and tennis, but he was strongest in academics, and he was part of the debate team. Bobby also established a literary society and a charity club at school, where he was described as one of the most popular freshmen. On May 21st, 1924, Bobby disappeared on his way home from school, which was just half a mile away. The following morning, Bobby's father, Jacob, received a typewritten ransom note, which read, quote, "Dear Sir, as you no doubt know by this time, your son has been kidnapped. Allow us to assure you that he is at present well and safe. You need fear no physical harm for him, provided you live up carefully to the following." The note then gave specific instructions for Jacob to get $10,000 by noon. In 2026, that amount is equivalent to over $195,000. The note specifically asked for the amount to be $2,000 in $20 bills and $8,000 in 50s. The money also had to be old, unmarked, and placed in a large cigar box. The note said to await further instructions and said that if Jacob spoke with police, Bobby would be killed. The note was signed, "Your friend, George Johnson." Shortly after the note arrived, a factory worker spotted a body in a drainage culvert in the Eggers Woods Forest Preserve, roughly 14 miles from the Franks' home. Despite the body being badly disfigured, the Franks family was able to identify the victim as Bobby. Bobby Franks was described as well-liked and a bright student. He was just 14 at the time of his death. Now, I warn you, this is brutal. According to the post-mortem, Bobby had been bludgeoned in the head and upper body, then suffocated with a rag shoved in his mouth, before the killer poured hydrochloric acid on Bobby's face and genitals in an attempt to conceal Bobby's identity.
Oh my God.
The killer also fully removed all of Bobby's clothes.
Good Lord.
Police found a pair of horn-rimmed eyeglasses at the scene, and assuming that they belonged to Bobby, they gave them to the funeral home, who placed the glasses on Bobby's face before his family came in to identify him. When the family said Bobby didn't even wear glasses, police realized, oh, these might actually belong to the killer.
Oh, good God.
Can you imagine the
No.
killer's glasses being put on the victim?
Horrifying.
I just can't even think about it. The glasses were looked at by an oculist, which is an old-timey way of saying ophthalmologist, and they determined that both the frames and the prescription were common. However, there was something very unique about the hinges. It turns out they were a new design that had been patented by a company in New York. And according to that company, they only sold those exact glasses with those exact frames at one store in Chicago. Police were then able to determine that the Chicago store had only ever sold 3 pairs of those exact glasses with those exact hinges. One pair belonged to a woman who was quickly ruled out as a suspect. Another pair was sold to an attorney who was abroad at the time all of this happened and had been for several weeks. The third pair was sold to 19-year-old Nathan Leopold. Nathan Freudenthal Leopold Jr., I'm just going to call him Leopold, was born November 19th, 1904 in Chicago. He was the youngest of 3 boys born to Nathan Sr. and Florence Leopold. Nathan Sr. was a well-respected local businessman who was said to be worth roughly $4 million in 1994. That amount is equivalent to roughly $78 million in 2026. Wow. Leopold was a prodigy who started talking at just 4 months old and eventually was able to speak 9 languages. His IQ was estimated to be between 200 and 220.
Oh, wow.
Which is insanely rare and incredibly impressive. Just to put it into perspective, according to verywellmind.com, an average IQ is between 85 and 115, while anything above 130 is considered to be gifted and above 140 is considered a genius. Albert Einstein, for example, was said to have an IQ of 160.
That's crazy.
Leopold and his family lived in Kenwood, the same affluent neighborhood as Bobby Frank's. So at first, police didn't believe it was possible that Leopold would be connected to such a brutal murder. But the glasses clearly belonged to Leopold, so police needed to know how did they end up at a crime scene. When asked, Leopold fully admitted, yeah, those were his glasses. He said 6 months earlier he was suffering from a lot of headaches, so friends suggested he see an eye doctor. The doctor prescribed Leopold a pair of reading glasses. Leopold said he wore the glasses for a few weeks, and when the headaches stopped, he just stopped wearing them. He said he hadn't worn the glasses in months, so he hadn't even realized they were missing. So how did his rarely used glasses end up at a crime scene? Well, Leopold just kind of shrugged and said, well, he's an avid birder who visited the forest preserve frequently, and the glasses must have just fallen out of his jacket pocket during a recent visit. The glasses that he didn't wear for months, he was carrying around. Sure, bud. To back up his birding claim, Leopold had published an article about his sightings on the Kirtland warbler, which the internet tells me is one of the rarest songbirds in North America. The game warden at the forest preserve confirmed that Leopold did visit that area often. When asked what he was doing at the time of Bobby Frank's disappearance, Leopold said he was driving around with his friend Richard Loeb when they picked up 2 girls, fooled around, and then when the girls refused to have sex with them, they dropped them off and went home. During Leopold's interview, police searched his bedroom where they discovered a letter that Leopold had written to Richard Loeb. The contents of the letter suggested that Loeb and Leopold were lovers, which made police ask, well, if they were lovers, Why would they spend a night out chasing girls? So then Richard Loeb was brought in for questioning. Richard Albert Loeb, who I'm just going to refer to as Loeb, was born June 11th, 1905 in Chicago. He was the third of four sons born to Albert and Anna Loeb. Albert Loeb was the vice president of Sears Roebuck, and he was said to be worth about $10 million in 1924, which is equivalent to roughly $195 million in 2026.
Wow.
Like Leopold, Loeb was incredibly intelligent. He graduated from high school at the age of 14 and immediately enrolled at the University of Chicago, where he met Nathan Leopold in the summer of 1920. But unlike Leopold, Loeb was charming, attractive, and well liked by others. Did I have to be kind of mean about Leopold? No, but also yes. Leopold and Loeb were both raised in wealthy homes under the watchful eye of stern governesses. So they had a lot in common, so no surprise, they quickly became very close friends. When Loeb was interviewed by police, he fully corroborated Leopold's story about driving around and picking up girls. However, the chauffeur for the Leopold family stated that Nathan Leopold couldn't have been driving that night because his car was being worked on at the garage. The chauffeur believed this information proved that Leopold was innocent because Bobby Frank's body was found several miles from where he disappeared, and while Leopold couldn't move a body without a car, well, unfortunately for the chauffeur, it didn't prove that Leopold was innocent. It destroyed Leopold's alibi because both Leopold and Loeb told police they were driving in Leopold's car. So now police are incredibly suspicious of both Leopold and Loeb. Then they noticed the typewriter that Leopold used to write the letter to Loeb, the letter that was discovered in Leopold's bedroom, was a match to the typewriter that was used to write the ransom note that was sent to Jacob Franks.
Okay, come on.
The handwriting on the outside of the ransom note envelope was an exact match to Nathan Leopold. So police knew they had their killers, but first they needed a confession. And since Leopold and Loeb were being held in separate rooms, they first went to Loeb, who quickly gave them all these details about the crime that only the killer would know. He also claimed it was all Leopold's idea. Investigators then went to Leopold and told him the details that Loeb had mentioned, which made Leopold realize, oh, Loeb has obviously confessed. So then Leopold also confessed, but said the entire thing was Loeb's idea. So why are we blaming each other? As far as I can tell, either they thought if they blamed each other, police wouldn't be able to figure out who was really responsible, so neither would be charged, or they just believed the main instigator would be punished more harshly than the other, and neither wanted to take the brunt of it. Regardless as to whose idea it initially was, both did outright admit to being involved and even willingly gave police very specific details about every single step of the crime, including the fact that they'd been planning it for months and had even typed the ransom note long before they ever chose a victim, which makes sense because names are never given in the ransom note. It's Dear Sir, and only ever mentions a son. They admitted that they planned, the plan all along was to commit a murder. The ransom note was just bullshit meant to distract the police. On May 21st, Leopold rented a car using the name Mr. Morton D. Ballard of Peoria. Leopold and Loeb then drove around looking for a victim. I assume they chose to search the wealthy Kenwood area because they needed a victim to come from money so that the ransom note would seem believable.
Right.
And since the ransom note referred to the victim as a son, it meant they were driving around in Kenwood looking for a potential male victim. And when they drove down South Ellis Avenue, they discovered Bobby Franks, who it turns out was a distant cousin of Richard Loeb.
No way.
Mm-hmm. They drove up behind Bobby, and with Leopold in the driver's seat and Loeb in the back seat, they offered Bobby a ride. But as soon as Bobby got into the vehicle, Loeb immediately started bludgeoning him with the end of a chisel, which they purchased at a hardware store several weeks earlier. Loeb said that Bobby started moaning, so they shoved a rag in his mouth, which caused him to suffocate.
Good God.
Once Bobby stopped breathing, they wrapped his body in a robe and then just drove around for hours because they didn't want to dispose of a body in broad daylight. So while driving around for hours on end, they stopped at a roadside stand and bought hot dogs and root beer. Good to know that murdering a child in cold blood didn't dampen their appetites. Once it got dark outside, they removed Bobby's clothes, tossed his shoes and belt along South Shore Avenue, and went to the forest preserve where they poured hydrochloric acid on parts of his body and then tossed him into a drainage culvert. The acid, they said, was purchased weeks earlier at a drugstore. After leaving the area, they stopped to call Loeb's house. I assume they were checking to see if anyone was home. They then drove to Loeb's house, which apparently was right across the street from where Bobby Franks lived. They burned Bobby's clothing and washed the blood out of the rental car. They drove down South Shore Drive, which runs along Lake Michigan. They stopped at one point to throw Leopold's typewriter off a bridge, and then drove a little further, stopped, and then burned the bloody robe that they had wrapped Bobby in. They returned to Loeb's house, where they threw out the bloody chisel, and then returned the rental car to the garage. For some reason, after this initial confession, Loeb and Leopold led investigators, State's Attorney Robert Crow, and a sea of journalists on a walking tour of their crime. That's right, the killers led people on a guided tour, showing them everything from the hardware store where they bought the chisel to the place where they tossed the typewriter. At no point did these assholes show any sign of remorse over what they had done. Instead, they seemed almost proud that they were showing off their perfect plan. Because according to these monsters, the only reason they committed the murder was because they wanted to kill someone and get away with it. They ended the life of a child simply so they could feel superior. They also claimed that they believed that they were bound by neither law nor morality because they were Übermensch or supermen, which is a concept explored by German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche?
Nietzsche, I think.
There it is. Leopold claimed the initial idea was Loeb's and that he only agreed to help because he wanted to please him. Leopold said he was in love with Loeb, and Loeb agreed to have sex with him in exchange for Leopold's help pulling off the perfect murder. A lot to unpack there, yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
It's the layers are wild. It's especially for the time period. I mean, I'm not suggesting that gay people haven't always existed. Of course they have, but like just the addition of like
how
I'll have sex with you if you help me with a murder. Like, my God, this is crazy.
100 years ago, I mean, kudos to them for being so out with their sexuality, and no kudos to them for everything else.
Yeah.
But again, like they kept saying like how they planned this perfect murder. They were going to do this perfect murder, but it clearly wasn't perfect at all because they easily got caught. To be clear, I am glad the monsters got caught. I'm just enraged that they really thought they were smarter than everyone else. And it turns out they made some pretty basic errors. Like, they left easily identifiable glasses behind. The handwriting on the address on the envelope, why wouldn't you just type the envelope? That makes no sense. Leaving the body in a place where you often go.
Yeah.
And using your own typewriter to create the ransom note.
But my question is, sorry to interrupt, but this is bothering me. So
Yeah.
they found the type, but they throw the typewriter off a bridge, or was it found in his room? Because it.
Well, they found a letter in his room and the typing on it, like there was, because typewriters
Oh,
are weird about certain things, and they looked at the letter that they found in the
copy
bedroom
that.
and the ransom note matched.
Matched.
They did fish the once they were like, this is where we threw it. They did fish the typewriter out
Got it.
and were able to prove, yeah, it was written by the same machine.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. Oh, God. But again, I'm glad they got caught. I'm just shocked that they really thought this plan was so seamless. Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb were both officially charged with murder and kidnapping. The Loeb and Leopold families immediately hired defense attorney Clarence Darrow, who had a reputation for taking seemingly unwinnable cases. Loeb's uncle, who was acting as a family liaison, offered to pay Clarence any amount necessary if he could secure a life sentence as opposed to the death penalty. They had both openly confessed to the crime, so there was no way that Clarence could try and claim otherwise. And he knew that his clients were disliked by the public, so you knew a jury wasn't going to like them. He went out on the street and interviewed people to ask if they thought Leopold and Loeb should receive a death penalty. 60% of the people he interviewed said yes. So, as a Hail Mary, Clarence subjected Leopold and Loeb to countless psychiatric tests in the months leading up to the trial to gather as much evidence as he could for an insanity plea. But each of the experts gave similar results. Leopold and Loeb weren't insane, they were just evil. Case in point, when interviewed by reporters, neither man showed any remorse for the crime. They simply bragged about how great their plan was. But again, if it was so great, you wouldn't have been caught. When Leopold was asked how he felt about Bobby's death, he said it didn't concern him. And then this is a direct quote: "It is as easy to justify such a death as it is to justify an entomologist impaling a beetle with a pin." Yeah.
Very bizarre.
A pretrial hearing was set for July 21st, exactly 2 months after the brutal murder of Bobby Franks. Clarence Darrow got up at the hearing and entered a guilty plea. Since he'd been prepping for a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity, everyone was shocked, especially State's Attorney Robert Crowe, who was ready to push back on every piece of evidence that Clarence gave. But with a guilty verdict, it meant instead of a traditional trial with a jury, there was going to be a lengthy sentencing trial, after which the entire decision would come down to the judge. Clarence said there was no point in denying that Leopold and Loeb had committed the murder, so he was just going to focus on why they committed it, because he believed he had evidence to prove that both men suffered from psychological weakness. So now, Robert Crowe didn't have to prove that these guys were guilty. His job now was to push as hard as possible for the death penalty. Because a guilty plea means now the judge only has two options. Are they getting a life sentence or are they getting a death sentence? So Robert, for the prosecution, calls more than 80 witnesses to the stand. Each of them add to the evidence that Leopold and Loeb committed this crime. He went on for 7 days making sure that every single detail of that crime was noted. He also wanted to prove that they'd been thinking about this crime and planning it for months. The crime was described as cruel and cowardly, and Robert demanded that the judge go with the death penalty. The entire time that Robert was presenting his argument, Leopold and Loeb sat behind their lawyer, smiling and laughing. knowing that pushing back on some of that testimony might just make things worse for him, Clarence didn't bother to cross-examine most of those witnesses. When it was time for the defense, Clarence Darrow stated he had scientific proof that Leopold and Loeb were physically and mentally diseased and therefore not responsible for Bobby Frank's death. Darrow brought in a team of experts who all blamed dysfunctional endocrine glands, saying that this caused the killers to have stunted emotional growth. One psychologist stated that Leopold was infantile to the point he still spoke to his childhood teddy bear. That psychologist said he estimated Leopold's emotional level at 4 or 5 years old. Does a 4 or 5-year-old say, have sex with me? And then the person goes, only if you help me commit a crime. And then a 4 or 5-year-old goes, sure. No. I think this psychiatrist is full of shit. And I don't know who they are. And I'm okay with saying that. So the experts claimed that both Leopold and Loeb were neglected by their parents and raised by controlling governesses. They claimed that Leopold had been sexually abused by his governess when he was 12, and that Loeb's governess pushed him so hard to be successfully academically that the pressure caused him to lie to her, and those lies led him to committing crimes. The experts claimed these men were sheltered and that they should be pitied rather than hated.
Oh, God.
But here's the thing for me, a non-expert. Okay, Loeb would lie to his strict governess to try and get her off his back. He claims these lies led him to committing crimes like vandalism and auto theft, which then somehow escalated to murder. Do I think the lies led to the crimes? Probably not. To me, it sounds like he was put under immense pressure to succeed and be perfect, and I could see how that might make him lash out and do the opposite, like petty crimes. But to claim it caused him to commit murder is wild. If he snapped and killed his governess, then I might buy it. But to spend months planning a murder simply because you want to get away with it is not about being pressured to succeed.
No.
There is a darkness to saying, I want to take a life, especially when the chosen victim is a child. To plan and carry out a murder is dark, but the added detail of pouring acid on the victim's face and somehow not feeling any remorse for it is just wild to me. So the defense can say whatever they want, but there is nothing that is ever going to make me feel bad.
No.
For those two men. Again, just a reminder that while the prosecution was discussing the crime in graphic detail, the killers were smiling and joking. That is not the behavior of someone who was pressured to the point that he just snapped. That is the behavior of a person who enjoyed taking a life and would likely have done it again if he hadn't been caught. When it came time for Clarence Darrow to give his closing arguments, he stated that it would likely be his last case before retirement. So more than 2,000 people showed up to witness what they were calling Darrow's last stand. At the time of Bobby Frank's murder, Leopold was 19 and Loeb was 18. So Clarence pushed the fact that they were basically still children themselves. He then suggested that the recent war, we know it as World War I, which had ended in 1918, had caused these children to grow up surrounded by violence, suggesting they were just a product of the time. Clarence then pleaded with the judge to choose a life sentence, not just for Leopold and Loeb, but for the ones who come after them. Clarence Darrow was very much against the death penalty, and wildly enough, just 2 weeks before his death, Bobby Franks and his brother Jack both captained debate teams at school. The argument was for or against the death penalty. Jack said he was for it. He said basically eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Bobby was The opposition, he said, quote, only God is permitted to take human life. Punishment should be reformative, never vindictive. To be clear, it kind of seemed his argument was more out of concern that an innocent person would be put to death. But in this case, we know neither of them is
No.
innocent. State's Attorney Robert Crowe gave his rebuttal, suggesting that the motive wasn't simply to commit the perfect crime, but suggesting that there was also a sexual motive to the crime simply because Leopold and Loeb were both gay. Um, and yeah, I mean, they were gay, but there was no evidence that Bobby was sexually abused in any way. I will point out, though, the killers poured acid on his face and genitals. They said they did that to hide his identity. So why'd they do it to the genitals unless they were trying to hide something?
Or because it was psychologist hat, their own self-loathing,
Interesting.
trying to lash out at somebody else.
More
But
than
I agree
fair.
with you. I think that the simplest answer is they were potentially trying to hide evidence for sure. I could also just see it being this like, look, I don't think that it proves that there wasn't something sexual that happened with that body. Absolutely not. Or even before he was killed. We don't know. We're trusting their chain of events. Get out of here.
100%. Oh, I think the whole point, like there wasn't evidence there was any sort of sexual assault, but I think the attorney was just so desperate to get the death penalty. He was just going to say anything graphic that would make people go, oh, okay, yeah, then these guys are bad news and there should be a death penalty. Um, this case was all anyone could talk about. Um, just wanna, okay. People had such a hard time deciding which sentence they believed was the right choice. Bookies gave 3-1 odds that the judge was going to rule against a death sentence. The idea that people would bet on the sentencing of a murder trial is wild to me, although I shouldn't be surprised because you can pretty much bet on literally anything. A quick Google tells me people have placed legitimate bets on things like the world's population, the weight of certain royal babies, and whether a celebrity couple will divorce. I wonder if Jennifer Garner ever put money on Ben and JLo. Not the time to get distracted with pop culture, Christy Lynn. So after the closing arguments, Judge John R. Caverly spent 12 days deciding on the verdict. On September 10th, he determined the fate of Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb. Judge Caverly said that he struggled with the decision, but despite the arguments that Robert Crowe and Clarence Darrow both came up with, he chose to base his decision solely on the age of the killers. Due to their youth, the judge chose to sentence both Leopold and Loeb to life in prison for the murder of Bobby Franks, plus an additional 99 years for the kidnapping. Since the Loeb and Leopold families were both incredibly wealthy, the public believed they had bought their way out of a death sentence. So, what happened to these people? Well, some of them I don't know, so I'll only go through the ones we do. Defense attorney Clarence Darrow did officially retire after that case, but he came back for his final case in 1932. It was a case that took place in Hawaii. But after that, after the Leopold and Loeb case, he spent the rest of his life campaigning to end capital punishment in the state of Illinois. He did not live to see it become a reality. Clarence Darrow passed away in March 1938 at the age of 80. On the topic of capital punishment, as of this record, 23 of the 50 states have abolished the death penalty, including Illinois, which did so in 2011. The Franks family never fully recovered from Bobby's death. His father, Jacob, passed away just 4 years later in 1928 at the age of 73. His mother, Flora, passed away in 1937 at the age of 60, and Bobby's older brother, Jack, died from a heart attack in 1938 at the age of 30. Bobby's sister, Josephine, who by the age of 32 had lost her entire family, died in 2007 at the age of 100.
Wow.
Yeah. Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb were both sent to Joliet Prison in Joliet. Fun fact, the Joliet prison was used in the 1980 film The Blues Brothers, as well as the 2005 TV series Prison Break.
Huh.
The prison shut down in 2002, and in 2018, it was reopened for guided tours. And when I hear about a defunct prison being used for tours, I think of Alcatraz, which makes me think of both Phil Hartman in So I Married an Axe Murderer and Ed Harris in The Rock. And right there, I could have referenced Nicolas Cage for a third time this episode, but I won't because that's low-hanging fruit, and I think you expect more from me. So Leopold and Loeb were both at Joliet, and they just continued their friendship. The following year, Leopold required an appendectomy, so he was transferred to Stateville Penitentiary in Crest Hill, Illinois. According to prison records, Leopold was caught violating prison rules on several occasions. I don't know what he did, but he did have to spend a lot of time in the hole, apparently. They did at one point accuse him of helping 7 prisoners escape. So that was something. In 1930, Loeb was transferred to Stateville, so the friends were just reunited. They worked together to create a correspondence school for prisoners and eventually expanded it to include both high school and junior college level curriculums. And while I'm all for them using their big brains to do something positive, I'm still outraged that at this point they still had not shown any remorse for what they'd done. On January 28, 1936, Loeb was attacked in the shower room by 23-year-old inmate James Day. Day claims that Loeb made unwanted sexual advances towards him, but he was able to fight him off. Loeb sustained 56 wounds from a straight razor, including having his throat slashed, while Day didn't have a single injury. Richard Loeb died from his injuries. He was 30 years old. The prison warden, several prison officials, and even the prison's chaplain all believed it was murder, claiming it was more likely that Day came on to Loeb and flew into a rage because Loeb turned him down. Especially given the fact that Loeb's throat was cut from behind. That doesn't sound like a man who managed to get a weapon from someone who was attacking him. He got the weapon without any sort of mark on him at all. I don't buy it. After a brief trial in June 1936, James Day was found not guilty. The jury believed he had acted in self-defense. Was it really self-defense, or did the jury believe Richard Loeb finally got what he had originally deserved? We'll never know. According to Britannica, Leopold was assisting in the medical unit when Loeb was rushed in with his injuries. If that's true, it's fascinating to know that after everything they went through together, Leopold potentially watched his friend die.
I love that for him.
I want worse for him, but I'll take that. I'll take that. After Loeb's death, Leopold continued to work with the schooling program that they had started together. In 1949, Leopold's sentence was commuted from life plus 99 years to 85 years. He published an autobiography called Life Plus 99 Years as part of his campaign to get paroled. I didn't read the book. Honestly, I didn't have the time, but I also didn't want to. According to a review on Goodreads, quote, while claiming acute remorse for his crime, he tends to throw all the blame on Richard Loeb. It's not the first time that Leopold claimed Bobby Frank's death was Loeb's idea, but at this time, Loeb isn't alive to dispute it. The parole board believed Leopold's bullshit, and he was released in March 1958. So just to sum up, he kidnapped and brutally killed a child, was sentenced to life plus 99 years. The sentence gets commuted to 85 years, and he gets released after serving 33. What is the fucking point of a life sentence if they don't spend the rest of their lives in prison? I know he was in his teens at the time of the murder. I just think if you're willing to do that to a child, you should never be released. I think if you intentionally take another person's life, you just automatically forfeit your freedom, especially when you took that life simply because you wanted to see if you could get away with it. On the day of his release, Leopold spoke to reporters asking people to allow him his privacy. And to that I say, fuck off. I know he served 33 years, but that was 33 years that Bobby Franks was denied. I have no sympathy for a man whose biggest concern was people might know the truth about what he did. But while he was in prison, Leopold became linked to the Church of the Brethren, which is an Anabaptist Christian denomination. He told them about all the educational and medical things he was doing in prison, like how he participated in a malaria study and assisted in the medical unit. To be clear, he made it sound like he was assisting in the malaria study, and it sounds like he was just like, I don't want to say a patient, but it just like he wasn't to the levels that he claimed he was. He wasn't doing the things. He tried to make himself seem more impressive than he was. But because of all that, after his release, the church accepted Leopold as a medical technician at their hospital in Puerto Rico.
Stop it.
While in Puerto Rico, he earned a master's degree at the University of Puerto Rico and became a researcher for the Puerto Rico Department of Health, specifically focusing on leprosy. In 1961, Leopold married a widow named Gertrude. And I know what you're thinking. He married a woman. Wait, didn't you tell us he was openly gay? Yeah, from the best I can tell, he absolutely was. But according to people who knew Leopold in his later years, despite the marriage, he still frequented gay bars, hired male sex workers, and had so many relationships with other men. Did Gertrude know about any of these affairs? I don't know. But when it came to cheating on his wife, from what I've heard, again, whether this is true or not, Leopold's preference was for teenage boys and young men.
Disgusting.
Allegedly. In 1963, Leopold published a book called Checklist of Birds of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. He had plans to publish a book about his life after prison, but he never got around to it because he died in August 1971 from a diabetes-related heart attack. He was 66. After Leopold's death, there were several newspaper articles about how much Leopold had reformed since entering prison. From the sounds of it, those articles left out the fact that prior to his death, people had accused Leopold of committing charity fraud and statutory rape. I don't know if those allegations are true or not, but he murdered a child and never once showed genuine remorse. So allegations or not, he's still a piece of shit in my mind. The fact that we're even talking about this case more than 100 years later is proof of how shocking it was. The case has inspired many books and movies, including Alfred Hitchcock's 1948 thriller Rope, starring Jimmy Stewart, who in a recent episode I said could get it, and the 2002 psychological thriller Murder by Numbers, starring Sandra Bullock and Ryan Gosling. Fun fact, after meeting on set, Sandy B and the Gauze dated for nearly 2 years despite having a 16-year age gap. No shade to Eva Mendes, but I honestly wish that relationship had lasted. Why? I don't personally know them. I'm unhinged. Good night.
What a sign off.
Yeah.
Listen, lots to talk about. So let's hit the can, grab a drink, and we'll be back to discuss Leopold and Loeb on this episode of True Crime and Cocktails. All right, clap 2 on 3. 1, 2, 3. Welcome back to this episode of True Crime and Cocktails. We're, of course, discussing Leopold and Loeb. Every time I hear Leopold, I think of that Looney Tunes cartoon where it's like, Leopold, Leopold, Leopold. Remember that?
I do not.
Just
I
me.
thought you were going to mention Lisa Loeb every time you hear Loeb.
Well, I think that too. I think that too. But the Leopold is more of an auditory thing. So Mother Laurel will know what I'm talking about, if no one else. You talked about Chicago being the stop point for the birds.
Yeah.
And I wrote, that's why the airport is so big. It's not a good joke. Birds don't use airports, obviously.
Look, it was a beautiful attempt. It was very pure, and it was a hell of a lot better than they walk into the ovens. I can't believe it. What is I will never live that down. I do not have the IQ of Albert Einstein.
Oh, come on now. You've seen
It's
an
not.
oven like that you walk into. I think you're being too hard on yourself. You mentioned the gentleman who was 8'11" at the time of his death at 22.
Yeah.
You mentioned he was 6 feet tall at age 8. Don't you think that would be unnerving, like a giant child? Like, I feel like that would be really creepy.
A 5-year-old my height? I don't know what I'd do. Like,
Then
I
I
don't.
wrote 8'11". Do you think his Chicago hot dog was a foot long? It's not great or necessary. This man is deceased.
Again, I've already said jizz. You're doing great.
Oh God, what a gift in my life. All right, we're into the case. We're into the case. I think the details of this are so vile, but also, well, no, not but, so vile and also so interesting to me because, again, in like building the psychological profile, all these things, it's kind of like, it's also interesting because it was so long ago, like 100 years ago. I understand that humanity has always been depraved, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But it's just interesting for the crime to have been so premeditated. Writing the ransom note before they'd even chosen a victim, buying acid in advance, driving around in a rental car until they found someone. Like, it's very chilling, especially for people so young, right?
Yeah.
I think, I was getting so hot when you were talking about like there's only 3 pairs of those glasses sold in all of Chicago. I was just like, let's go. Like those kinds of like smoking gun clues, just, I guess they get me hot.
Yep.
The reveal also that there was the note that they found that indicated Leopold and Loeb were lovers is interesting. It feels to me like, and I know there was the detail also that Loeb was like, I'll sleep with you if you help me kill a person, basically, which is so bizarre. And the fact that they were also so intelligent. I am not in any way implying that there is a correlation between who commits murders and intelligence. I'm not saying that. It's just interesting, all of this, again, when you're trying to build this profile and these two rich kids who found each other, who, again, in a very different time 100 years ago, were having some kind of sexual relationship, regardless of what the ins and outs of that were. It's just, there's something about it where it's like there's a piece of it missing to me. Like there's something that we don't know. There's some piece to this, and in my opinion, that is just missing. Because it's like on paper, I'm like, it just feels like there's an aspect that we're not hitting. Is it like, so literally it was just that you two were friends that sometimes had a physical relationship and then you just decided to kill somebody at random? Like, I just don't think that that's typically the case. There's usually some other element here, whether it was a Bonnie and Clyde type dynamic, whether it was
Sure.
that there was a sexual element to this crime that we don't know about because the body was unfortunately disfigured from acid. Like, there just feels like there's, I also will say, not to get ahead of myself, but the reveal at the end that Leopold was potentially dating underage boys in his later life after getting out of prison, psychologist hat, I'm like, there's something about being that age that he's either trying to relive or, I mean, there's a million reasons. He could also just be a pedophile. But I think it feels like something happened sexually with that crime. Because my question is, they said they killed him as soon as he got in the car. Do we buy that? This was a much younger boy than them, right? Yeah. Did they kill him as soon as he got in the car? Or did they cat and mouse it a little bit? Did they make him feel fear as they were driving away from where his home is? Did they take him to some other place in the woods and engage in some kind of sexual assault or, level of torture? Like not to belabor the details of the crime because they're horrific, but it was 100 years ago. So do I think that the autopsy skills were as, advanced as they are now? No. So again, in terms of like exact time of death versus this is an awful thing to think about, but we don't know that they put that acid on him after he was already dead. We don't know, right? Because I don't feel like the autopsy would have had that. I don't know that they would have been able to tell that at the time. So they're going based solely on their story,
their timeline. Yeah.
I also, the detail that they stopped at one point for hot dogs, I was like, what is it about us on this show? And like, we talked about hot dogs so much in the beginning, and then there's hot dogs in the case. Like, it just always happens that way somehow. But I'm like, did they corroborate that? Like, did the police go and confirm that they had been there and gotten the hot dogs at that time? Or did they just let it go? Because they were like, well, they're guilty and we caught them, so what does it matter if that's the truth or not? And to me, it matters because we need to determine, did they really kill this kid right away? Because that's less depraved, right?
Yeah.
Arguably. I'm talking from their mindset. It's less depraved to say, we picked a kid up, immediately killed him, and then just, drove around until it got dark and stripped him nude, poured acid on him and dumped his body. That is a very kind of, in my opinion, unrealistic crime. I don't believe that it was that simple. And I think that given the nature of their relationship, that there was a sexual element, that they wanted to commit this murder, or at least one of them did. I mean, I think that they both did personally. I feel like this was, again, one of those situations where it was like they probably fantasized about this together for some amount of time before doing it. And I do think that there was the element that they wanted to see if they could do it and not get caught. I believe that. But do I believe that they didn't do anything? Like, do I believe that it was like as cut and dry as like, yep, we took him in the car, immediately killed him? I'm like, no. To me, I think they picked him up, they scared the shit out of him, they took him into the woods, did God knows what for that entire amount of time, whatever it was, 3 hours, however, because they said they drove around for so long waiting for it to get dark. Yeah, or did they go into a wooded area and fucking do God knows what for hours and then dump the body? I think that's more realistic. And I think, again, part of the reason they were probably snickering in court on top of them just being psychopaths was like, I think they probably did way more than they even got caught for. Like, I think there's an element of it for them that was delightful because it was like, well, we got away with...
They got away with part of the crime.
Right.
Yeah.
Why would we trust them? Why would we ever believe them? And unfortunately, the forensics, again, at the time, I just don't think there would have been any way to prove otherwise. So they just had to believe their story. And I don't, like, it's just easier to swallow if it was like, oh yeah, we bludgeoned him from behind immediately and he was dead. That's an easier thing for someone to swallow than the possible truth of what horrific things were done. Because I don't know that I buy that two young men who are twisted enough to plan this kind of crime were super like, yep, that was it. Really? Doubtful.
Yeah.
Doubtful. I think the interesting thing for me, And I agree with you that, like, part of me thinks that the psychologist was just wrong. But this concept that Leopold potentially was still talking to his childhood teddy bear at whatever he was, like 19, right?
Yeah.
And the psychologist said, oh, emotionally he's 4 or 5. Have I been known to talk to stuffed animals in my home recently? Yep. Do I think that that's proof that I'm emotionally 4 or 5? Nope. Now again, I know it was a different time, but to me, it's like, if the detail is true that this 19-year-old psychopath was still carrying on some level of conversations with his childhood toy at 19, I think that's fascinating. Do I think that that's proof that he's emotionally stunted? I don't, but I think it's an interesting part of his character. I think it's more indicative to me of fantasy. I think it's more indicative to me of state of mind, loneliness, of feeling misunderstood. We know that Loeb was the charismatic one, the liked one.
Right.
And Leopold wasn't. So again, to me, it's unfortunate to me that they kind of posed it in the way they did, because to me it does speak to who he is. I just think that they were wrong about what it meant. If that's even true. Like, do we also, like, because they're also just going to have to base that on him. We don't know if he's telling that. He could have been saying that to try and make himself sound insane to get the insanity plea. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's the other unfortunate thing here, is that it's like, we're not dealing with reputable narrators, and we never will. We'll never know, which is frustrating. Thank God they were at least caught. Yes, then I wrote down, like, did they talk to the hot dog stand people? I'm very firm on that. It's interesting that they didn't get the death penalty. To me, given the time period, given the nature of the crime, given the age of the victim, I'm actually quite surprised that the judge didn't give them the death penalty. Not that I'm suggesting that he should have.
Sure.
I'm just surprised, given the fact that this was 100 years ago, that he was like, well, due to the young age of the people or whatever. I can understand why the public would have said it feels like the rich families paid him off. In fact, I tend to think that might have happened. I mean, it just feels... They knew that they committed the crime. I mean, it was a guilty verdict. Now, I know now it's like, if it's a guilty verdict, then you usually, or a guilty plea, you do that to avoid the death penalty. It sounds to me like at that time, it didn't automatically mean you were avoiding the death penalty, given the fact that there was a long, sentencing trial, etc. So yeah, to me, does it sound like the parents could have, greased the pocket? Yeah, absolutely. I tend to believe that a little bit more than the other truth, which is just that the judge was like, well, they're young. We don't want to give them the death penalty now.
I also wonder if their age, if they were like 21, anything 20, would the judge have still done that? Is it just because they were technically teenagers?
It's a great question. Maybe. And maybe I'm wrong and maybe I'm off the mark, but I'll say certainly, knowing that they came from rich families, it feels like that could have been a factor for sure. In 1924? I mean, we were, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, it just feels like they would have wanted to make an example of them or something. But anyway. Okay. My feelings on Loeb's death. Do I think it was a murder? I think there's a very large possibility that that's true. I think it's possible that it was simply, as we know, like, child killers, child predators tend to do well in prison. Other inmates tend to, handle that in violent ways. So I think it's more than possible. It could have been that James Day was just like, I'm going to kill the child killer. I think it could be that simple.
Sure.
I think it could be like a larger conspiracy in the prison. Do I think it was self-defense? No. If he slit his throat from behind, I don't believe that it was self-defense. And if there didn't appear to be many defensive wounds, I highly doubt that it was self-defense. Do I think it's possible it could have been sexually motivated? I do. I think it's possible that, I mean, Loeb, we know he has a history of it. Do I think it's possible he could have made a comment that didn't go over well or made a pass, and then James Day was like, no thanks. It's possible James Day could have let him on and said, yeah, all right, let's go. And then when his back was to him, he slit his throat.
Sure.
Um, James Day was found not guilty, self-defense. That feels a lot like the jury was just like, you took out the trash, you know?
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying that that's right. That's just what it feels like, especially, again, given the time period. I just wrote down demons at one point. I was just like, these men, these boys are demons. My God. I did not see, and shame on me, having done this show for 260 some episodes for 6 years. How on earth was I shocked to hear that Leopold got released from jail early? I was blown away. I think if you look at my face, I was literally like, I was like stone faced because I was like, what? I can't have heard her correctly. That's what I thought to myself. I misheard.
Yeah.
How on earth, guys? This is, and I'm speaking to the judge and the judicial system back then, because I'm assuming it was all men. How on earth, guys, did you make that call? That's fucking nuts. Because think about it. He went into prison at what, 19? He gets out after 33 years, so he's out at 52-ish. You can now, granted, I understand he died. You know, whatever.
It was 13 years later.
Right.
Yeah.
But he had 13 years of freedom.
Yep.
And by the way, your 50s, that's there's a lot of life left to live at that point. I mean, for God's sake, we know that Bobby's sister lived to be 100. So again, it's like, I just don't think that that's justice.
No.
I don't,
No.
especially, how on earth was it you got a life sentence and then a 99-year sentence on top of it? 33 years, they're like, let him go. What? And you know what pisses me off? It's the tale as old as time we hear on this show again and again, that then there was talk, and listen, it doesn't sound like he was ever convicted of the crime, but do I believe that he was having sex with kids, like, you know, underage boys? Of course I believe it. Why would I not believe it? This man was capable of doing horrific, heinous murder, so do I think it's possible he could have used that kind of judgment also? Yeah. And it's what we've heard so many times on this fucking show. When it's somebody's in prison for murder, they get let out early and then they can commit another crime. Typically sex crimes. It is just, I'll go before Congress. I'll make a goddamn chart with string. Lock them up. And I don't need to get into my rant that I've gotten into on this show recently about how I believe all sexual assault and all murder should be a mandatory life sentence and then see what happens. I stand by it. But why are we calling it a life sentence? Call it something else then.
It enrages me.
Yeah.
To be like, life sentence? Oh, let him out early.
Yeah.
Like,
when it's for murder. Like, this is the other thing. It's like, they murdered a 14-year-old child. They lured him. Yeah. And you said they were distant cousins, which is also, you know, a wild detail. So it's also feasible that he kind of knew them a little bit, or he knew Loeb a little bit, right? Bobby might have known that, you know, they may not have been close, but like, you lured this child to a gruesome, horrific death.
Yeah.
Rot in prison forever.
100%. If it was like a car accident and it was completely an accident and somebody died, then I'm going to be like, okay, maybe not life. But if you plan out and intentionally, brutally murder somebody, especially a child, that's it.
And it's also, you know, we hear it all the time too, that someone who's doing a life sentence will get to a point where it's like, I found God and I feel so shameful about what I've done and I have so much regret. Like, that's something you hear. That didn't happen.
No.
It's not like he went on some apology tour being like, I really regret my actions. What I did was awful. Right? Like, no, there was no mention of that.
From the best I can tell, he wrote that book and was like, oh yeah, it was terrible. I didn't do anything. It was all his idea.
Right.
I just went along with it to please him.
Which again is not saying it's not taking full ownership, right?
Yeah.
It's not going, I've had time to think about this and what I did was absolutely inexcusable, horrific, all of those things. It was just like, oh, it was all him. It was him. It was his idea, and I did it. Go fuck yourself, man. I mean, literally, he gets out. He becomes a med tech in Puerto Rico. So then he's also living on a tropical island, which doesn't sound so bad, you know.
Nope.
Becomes a med tech in Puerto Rico, gets married, but then is also engaging, obviously, in his same sex dalliances, some of which were consensual, some of which sounds like statutory rape at best. Publishes a book of birds. Every detail of this enraged me more.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so he gets out of prison in his early 50s. He's got lots of life potentially left to live. Gets married, has all the sex he wants, potentially is doing things that are illegal with underage boys, has a good job, lives on a paradise island, writes a book about one of his passions about birds. You know where he wasn't seeing birds? In prison, which made me very happy.
Correct. Yeah.
And then, you know, I'm glad he died of the heart attack at 61. Good.
He got just under, so it wasn't exactly much, but he got almost as much time after prison as Bobby got just in his entire life.
Yeah, it's a great point.
And it's enraging, and also it's just the fact that he left prison and it was like, here's a job and we'll move you to another country to
not technically another country,
I mean, it is part of the US, but you know what I mean? Like, we'll move you to a tropical location, set you up with a job. You're welcome.
Yeah.
How many people like from who get out of prison are handed a job?
It's horrific.
Like, especially for something like that. Again, if it's a life sentence, leave him there. And then there's the whole like, so there's the murder charge and the kidnapping charge. If they did anything sexual to that child, that should have been another charge.
But I guarantee it happened. I just do. I think it's like, when you said they poured the acid on his face and his genitals so they wouldn't be recognized, I was like, well, they obviously weren't saying that he was going to get recognized by his genitals. That was before the detail came out about their sexual relationship with each other. To me, I just don't buy it. And you were saying, too, that it was like, well, there was no signs of sexual assault, but what were they looking for? Right? What was the oh my God, coroner or medical examiner? Good God, it took a long time to get there.
You're doing great.
What was the medical examiner looking for? What was the proof of no signs of sexual assault if there was acid poured on his genitals? Now, we also, you know what I mean? Like, who knows? Because there was no semen on the body, because there was no sign of like penetration, that doesn't mean sexual assault didn't happen. My God.
They also could have just looked at the body and been like, we can see like the bludgeoned portions. And then there was like, I assume, part of the rag or the rag in his mouth. And then they could have easily looked at that and been like, that was the cause of death. And then just done nothing else.
Right. Great point. They may not have even done any sort of in-depth investigation in terms of an autopsy. Great point.
And I'm sure, because I'm sure it wasn't a thing at the time, but then it's like, if the acid was, fingers crossed, after his death, all I can think of is, well, then that's desecration of a corpse.
Oh, great.
Add that one. The fact that 100%. They were only given those 2 charges. Also, the fact that he called his book his sentence.
I know.
To me, that is just proof that he didn't feel bad about it.
No, not at all.
Mocking it. And what an absolute piece of shit. And then to have the audacity when he gets out of prison to be like, I'd like to have my anonymity, so please leave me alone. It's like, fuck you.
Yeah, go fuck yourself, man.
I can't.
It's absolutely horrific on every level. Beyond. And again, I just think I think the only reason why they would put, well, there's three reasons why they put acid on the genitals. One, to hide something they've done.
Yep.
Two, for some sort of sick, twisted, sadistic torture. Regardless of whether he was alive or dead. You know what I mean? Like, or the fantasy of torture. Or three, because of some, again, psychological self-loathing, we are struggling with our sexuality, so we want to, whatever. But it just didn't seem like they were struggling with their sexuality. I mean, they had a sexual relationship, and we know that Leopold at least went on to continue, you know what I mean? So it didn't, I mean, I'm not suggesting that, obviously it's very nuanced, and of course, but I don't know. I just tend to lean towards that. I think that it was either covering something up or torture or both. And I just believe that. And again,
100%.
I don't think that and listen, I just don't know what they would even have found. I mean, again, and his face was also disfigured. Like, who knows what they could have done? There was hours, let's put it this way, and then I'll stop because I know it's terrible to think about, but there was hours and hours of time that we are just trusting that they were driving around with a dead body.
Yeah.
We've done this long enough. People who listen, who are typically people in the true crime world, we all know. Do we buy that? I don't buy it for a second.
No.
I don't buy it for a second. What a nightmare.
Yeah.
I can't believe I've never heard of this.
Oh, I only came across it because I was looking for specific like movies tied to crimes, and then I heard the name, and I heard it was, all I knew about it going in, it was two guys who tried to commit the perfect murder.
Right.
I didn't know details that I found partway through. So.
Well, listen, fantastic work as always. You never cease to impress and amaze.
I'll take it.
And thank you, dear listeners, for coming with us on this wild ride. If you haven't already, give us a follow on the socials on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at True Crime and Cocktails, on Twitter at Not Detectives. If you'd like some of that bonus content, go over to patreon.com/True Crime and Cocktails to learn more about our bonus content over there. The only place for official True Crime and Cocktails merch is, of course, truecrewmerch.com, so check that out as well if you're interested. And I am coming on the road on tour this fall in October. Go to laurenash.band and get your concert tickets now. VIP tickets are selling very quickly, so if you'd like to meet me, get a photo, all of the above, make sure you get those while you still can. Christy, do you want to tell the people about next week's episode?
On the next True Crime and Cocktails, Kalinka Bambursky.
What a name. This is another case I know nothing about, so I look forward to that. Christy, do you want to say goodnight to the people?
Good night, Jimothy.
Good night, Jimothy.